Should you, if you're buying a turnkey rental property, have an attorney look over all of the documents and the paperwork you receive from the turnkey provider? So I'm going to caveat this with, I am not a legal professional. I'm not a tax professional. I am not any of those people with certifications who supposedly should be telling you what to do. So take all of this with a grain of salt, use your own judgment. Don't blame anything on me. Here's just my thought about it. My other caveat to this video is this is a hard one to answer because I feel like if someone ever says don't use an attorney, it seems like there could be some shady business going on. Like, so, I want to try to very objectively answer this question. So you want to buy a turnkey investment property, turnkey rental property as an investment. You meet a turnkey provider you really like, you pick out a property, you're like, I want that one. And they send you the sales contract. Should you have an attorney look it over? Typically my answer is no, but let's back up and kind of break that down. Again, if you're more comfortable with it and you want to ensure everything's good to go, fine, hire your attorney. But here, I'm going to tell you my thoughts about it. The first thing I think about is some turnkey providers, their sales contract is the state issued standard real estate contract that every real estate agent and property uses. So like if you're buying in Illinois, and Illinois has a like realtor approved sales contract, if that's what your turnkey provider is using, you're probably going to be wasting a good bit of time and money hiring an attorney to look at that because it's literally the standard contract. The only things, of course, you want to look for, like if there's addendums or things written in or differences, that people have noted or whatever, like still read it, make sure that it is still the original state issued contract. But again, if it's a state issued contract and not their own language, you're kind of almost being redundant because the state obviously approved it and every real estate transaction possible uses it. So is your attorney suddenly going to find something that isn't legit? Probably not. Always in this too, keep in mind how much you're going to pay an attorney to review all this stuff. So is it worth them reviewing a state issued contract? Up to you. So what if the turnkey provider though, and this is maybe half the providers, give you their own sales contract? So this is not a state issued contract. It's their company wrote it or their lawyers wrote it or whatever. Yeah, there is more room for there to be differences. And, it's not state approved. It may be approved, but it's not, the contract that every single property is using. So there's probably more room for some differences in it. So you do want to read it more carefully, but here's where kind of the problem comes in with an attorney is, again, I'm not a legal professional, take this with a grain of salt, but quite often what I've seen happen is, number one, attorneys are trained, and I'm glad that they are trained like this, it's their whole job, to absolutely demolish a contract. And that's, because they've seen every single worst case scenario possible. So it's very likely that they're just going to destroy this thing. And again, this is the part that it's really hard to say without it sounding like a turnkey provider is trying to be shady or something. So again, I hope you kind of hear the context in which I mean this. So it's their job to destroy something. And what I mean by that is, like, this sales contract, it could be a perfectly legit contract, valuable, like valid, everything. There could literally be nothing wrong with this contract, and an attorney may demolish it and say that the entire thing is wrong. So, you kind of have to use your judgment on that of, it is a little bit hard, especially if you're brand new. Chances are, if you're working with a turnkey provider, while you're typically not represented by an actual real estate agent, chances are they are real estate agents. Or if you're working with a turnkey marketing company, they are licensed real estate agents. So you could have them help you with this. They may not legally be representing you, but they can help you go through the contract. I've had people send me contracts, say, hey, I have a couple of questions about this, or do you see anything that jumps out at you? And I can look at it and say, well, I might want to ask about this, or otherwise, yeah, that's totally standard. Because especially if you're new to buying turnkeys, you may not know what is standard or not. So, if someone more experienced can say, that's totally normal, here's how that works, here's why that's there, yada, yada, yada. So, you can always ask for the help of agents, because they can kind of, you know, again, it's a little bit of a different legality type of thing, but the agents can give you feedback. So so number one is they can very easily just demolish a contract unnecessarily. Number two, we're just going to go downhill as far as how official my advice sounds. But I've been in turnkey rental properties for 9 years now. It's 2020. I started in 2011, 9 years. I have worked with and around so many different turnkey providers, I can't even tell you. To date, again, I'm not a legal professional. To date, I have never seen a sales contract from a turnkey provider, even the turnkey providers that ended up not being very good. Even them, I have never seen a turnkey sales contract screw somebody. I just haven't. Because if you think about it, if you get screwed, they are risking their entire business. Because turnkey providers are operating in bulk, you know, they're pushing anywhere from, say, 3 or 5 to 70 properties a month. They can't afford to have a shoddy sales contract that totally screws somebody and whatever. And like I said, this is not official, but I've just never seen it happen. I think there's too much riding on it, and there's too many people involved in the equation. Sure, it could happen, but I also don't really know what they necessarily would screw you on, because it's the same process as if you're buying a house for yourself, it's the same process. You put your earnest money down, that's going to be in the contract. You agree to a certain time length due diligence period, that's in the contract. Here's what's available to you during that due diligence period, that's in the contract. If you don't cancel your contract within the specified amount of time, you lose your earnest money. That is in the contract. So it's a pretty basic sales contract idea. So if it's not a state issued contract, again, you know, it is kind of following, there's only so many things it can say. And I, quite frankly, don't exactly know what the sales contract could say to screw you, unless it was, if you cancel for any reason, even if it's during the due diligence period, you lose your $5,000 earnest money. That would suck, because the whole point of the due diligence period is that you have a chance to verify everything with the ability to cancel the contract if any of those things don't check out. So something like that, but again, that's pretty basic verbiage. So as far as whether I think you should use an attorney to help you with your paperwork and contracts through a turnkey rental property buying experience, my answer is no, for the reasons I said, and also what I've also seen happen is because attorneys aren't familiar with turnkeys, and it kind of goes into the category of demolishing a contract unnecessarily, but quite often turnkey buyers are buying in a state they don't live in, and they hire a lawyer. So let's say you hire a lawyer in California to review your contract in Indianapolis. Not super helpful. So one thing is, if you do want to hire an attorney, I highly recommend hiring an attorney in the state in which you're buying. Not to say the California attorney can't do it, but like, you might as well have someone a little more familiar with that state. So I've just not really seen a lot of good things. Well, here's one thing. I have never seen someone hire an attorney for a turnkey rental property contract or whatever, where the attorney has found something sketchy or a deal breaker. So those people end up just paying a lot of money for an attorney when it's kind of like an already proven process. Again, hesitations on saying that, because the whole point of the attorney is to double check that it's a proven process, and you don't know that if you're not the one that's proven on. So again, taking everything I say lightly, but I've just never seen it work. I've never seen an attorney save somebody from something sketchy. Attorneys cost a lot of money. Half the time they don't actually they're not familiar with what it is you're buying. So, you know, and again, you also have real estate agents probably in the equation who can help you. And some of it is just a matter of being familiar with the process and knowing if the contract supports that. So probably clear as mud and not overly helpful. Again, I hesitate to say don't use an attorney, because I think you should do absolutely whatever you feel comfortable with. But hopefully those are some considerations to think about when you're pondering whether to bring an attorney into the equation on a turnkey or not.